Ach, guten Tag, mein Freund. It's good. Hey guys, it is Eudora, and today we are going to talk about the Hanhaltz, the new German Tier 8 premium battleship, and honestly, pretty solid ship. Genuinely happy with it. In terms of archetype, it's pretty much the same as the Mecklenburg, so lots of guns, but at the same time it's a small caliber. Well, it's not even that small to be honest. It's the same as in the Mackensen, so it's 350mm. So now, of course, you won't be getting much citadels and battleships at the long range, but at medium range, it's still doing pretty alright, honestly. Now, there are of course some pretty big downsides on this ship, and the most noticeable one is the speed. She's only able to reach a base speed of 25 knots, which, well, it's pretty damn slow at this tier. Of course, you still have the Kansas, for example, which is slower than that. But it's still going to be a bit of a pain in the ass if you want to properly position, because you cannot just rely on overmatch, and well, even if you're in a poor angle, you will still get good chunks of damage on cruisers and even on battleships. Here you do want to get the broad set of targets, because even cruisers won't get overmatched by your guns. Then again, even if they are angled, it's not even that big of a problem, to be honest. Because for once, you are just dumping so much shells on the target that even if it's angled, you will get pretty solid chunks of damage. Quite often on battleships that were fully angled, to me, I was still getting good 8 or even 10k damage just from the superstructure, or even just a tiny bit of misangling, if it's even a word actually. But yeah, it's definitely not the end of the world to have such low caliber. In case if you really need to switch to HE, well, don't worry. To be honest, it's still the of course it's the German HE, so you get the lower damage, but at the same time you get improved penetration, and it's still doing all right, I guess. I mean, it's nice with 15 shells per salvo to get fires on the target. So yeah, small guns, but not the end of the world. Also, the Anhalt is getting 2 torpedoes per side. It is fixed launchers, so not just like the British battle cruisers, but just like them again, it's the wiggling torpedoes, if you can call them like this. Not even sure if by now there's an official term for it, but basically, it is fixed launchers. But when exiting the tubes, the torpedoes will, well, wiggle around to reach the proper bearing. And thanks to that, the firing angles are actually pretty damn good. It's almost to the point where you can fire the torpedoes while being fully angled, born or stern to your target. On top of that, the torpedoes reload very fast with a 45 seconds reload. So on close range situations, because the torpedoes only have 6 kilometers of range, well, they will prove to be pretty useful, especially since the damage they deal is not bad at all, with just a bit more than 20k damage. So yeah, if you find yourself in a brawling situation, you will have a pretty good asset to put into play. Just be careful though, because for some reason, when in certain situations the torpedo turn, when they wiggle around, they will not directly activate, on the marker you see on the UI. They will take a tiny bit more time to get to arm and to be able to deal damage. So yeah, just always keep some safe distance between you and your target, otherwise you will have a bit of a bad surprise. Also, another problem of these torpedoes, they are pretty damn slow with only 54 knots, sorry. So plan ahead in case your target slows down or accelerates, as otherwise the torpedoes will completely miss the target and you will look like an idiot. Other than that, well, it's a German battleship, so just like most of them, it has truckload of armor everywhere. The Citadel isn't exactly foolproof. You can still get take Citadels when showing through broadside. But yeah, it's still pretty forgiving, honestly. It also helps that you have decent firing angles, so it's 35 degrees both at the front and the rear. So you just need to angle a tiny bit and you will be in a safe zone against AP shells. Against HE, well, it's the usual with German battleships. You are generally well covered with a lot of 50mm sections. Just the superstructure, which is pretty big, so it will catch quite a few shells. So keep that in mind. Other than that, yeah, actually, I was talking about the turrets. This is another big problem of the Anhalt. The turrets, compared to pretty much all German battleships that are here, actually all of them, I think, the turrets are slow, with only 45 seconds of turning time for one an 80-degree turn. So if you need to angle or turn around, we'll have to wait a lot of time. If you're lucky, you have to angle while to turn around while kiting away, in which case you will be fine. You'll still have 9 turrets to bring to bear. Oh, sorry, 9 guns. Otherwise, it will be at the front and you will only have 6. So, yeah, try to plan ahead when turning around, as you will have limited firepower for quite a while after that. Since it's a German battleship, you might be tempted to go for a secondary build. On the Anhalt, it's... The problem with the Anhalt is that you have very few guns on each side. It's only 4 guns of a caliber of 150mm on each side, plus 3 twin turrets with 105mm guns. So yeah, compared to Bismarck, Tirpitz, Brandenburg or Odin, for example, it's a pretty weak broadside. Especially since, well, it's still only the German battleship secondary dispersion. So yeah, it's improved, but not improved by much compared to the normal secondary dispersion. So yeah, long story short, with the Anhalt, it's the same as with the Mecklenburg. You will want more of a dedicated captain with a standard battleship build. I mean, you can always try to go for a secondary build if you truly want to go for it. You know, getting the full use of the torpedoes as well. But, well, with the weak secondary broadside, with the slow speed of the ship, the slow turret traverse, she doesn't do that well at close range. She's, yeah, as I keep saying since the beginning, she's a lot closer to the Mecklenburg, so you stay at medium range, let's say, and you just dump every 30 seconds 15 shells on the target. And even if it's not citadels, the damage is pretty damn good, honestly. You get quite a few salvos with 10k or more damage on broadside battleships. So don't worry, it's not a secondary ship, but the main battery, it is doing a pretty good job. It's also pretty nice against destroyers, of course, because Even if the dispersion is not that great, it's the German Battleship dispersion with 1.7 Sigma. I mean, you don't care, you have rank 15 shots at the target, so even if it's a small destroyer, at least 3 or 4 shells will make their way towards your target. So yeah, overall, a solid package in my opinion for tier 8. It's already way better than the Brandenburg, because at least you have usable firing angles, you don't have pea shooters in terms of a main battery. And also, actually the tanking part of the ship is also far better, since you have almost 70k HP plus very good armor protection. Yeah, as a whole, the Anhalt is, in my opinion, a pretty good package. Now for this game you might say, yeah, but you're against tier 8, against the tier 8 ships, it's easy, etc, etc. Frankly, for the few games I had with the ship since the start of the testing, even against tier 10, she was doing remarkably well. Like, honestly. So anyway, when it comes to that particular game, as you can see, it is pretty damn tight. We're about to lose our Vladivostok, or Wichita is also on his last limb, and it can most certainly get killed by the enemy Kaga. And like an absolute moron, I actually got baited because, yeah, that's the big problem with the Anhalt. It is a pretty big ship with a large turning radius. So yeah, in terms of maneuvering, not the most comfortable ship, especially when I get completely cocked by the underwater world and I get stuck on the island for God knows how long. If it happens to you, by the way, small trick: you set the autopilot away from where you're beached, and it will somehow find a way to get you unstuck. Most of the time, it works. If it doesn't work, well, you are just stuck completely. You would wish that at this point, Wargaming would have figured out a way to fix it, but yeah, they didn't so far. Alternatively, you are not an idiot like me. You look in front of you. That also works. But yeah, now that I'm unstuck, I can nicely push on that key, which is now cutting away. And you will see here, okay, he's angled. That could be bad. But yeah, it's still 6k damage while angled because of how many shells we are throwing at the targets. You also at this range a secondary is going into action. And why it's only a few guns. Well, they are saying fires, they're getting a few penetrations here and there, so you take all you can that can help you to kill the target. Oh wait, actually, I completely forgot. Sorry, my bad. So the Anhalt will be available starting on the 16th of September for a minimum price of 12,800 doubloons, or alternatively on the premium shop for roughly 42 euros, at least for the most basic package. And she also gets a special skin, as you can see here, which I actually completely forgot the name of. But I have to say, it is a magnificent skin. It's somewhat ruined because in port you get special animation. You get some kinds of solar sail, if I can call them that way, which get deployed, you know, a bit like on the Béarn in port. You have the elevator of the flight deck rising up. Well, here it's solar sails. I mean, it is nice to see them getting deployed, but they're not particularly fitting well with the rest of the skin. To be honest, it doesn't really matter. It's just in port that it happened, so it's kind of whatever. But yeah, other than that, I have to say it is a magnificent skin. Just as usual, Wargaming's art department rarely disappoint us. Anyway, so back to the action. Well, what was at the start a close game seems like it's turning into a solid win. As we thought just before, Bismarck hiding away, by the way. 10k damage on while it was angled, so yeah, as I keep saying, don't worry, it is small guns, but they still pack a solid punch. Now at this point, for whatever reason, there is the enemy Kaga pushing inside our spawn. Don't ask me why, because it just offered us a free kill. Which, by the way, the game will end before it actually happens, but it was exactly 200,000 damage. Exactly. The perfect number. I love when it happens. But yeah, just smacked the crap out of the Kaga. That was also satisfying. Anyway. So yeah, Bismarck still cutting away. Who cares? 10,000 damage while he's angled. Because yeah, actually, that is one of the good parts of having somewhat small caliber guns. You'll have a lower arming threshold, so compared to big 406 or 380. On superstructure, you have a much easier time to get penetrations. So yeah, you don't need to switch to HE too much in case, unless you just want to make sure that the guy is set on fire for some dot damage, or if you want to make sure that it stays spotted for a little longer. It's always useful, especially now that they changed the expert loader skill. The fact that even if you are not fully loaded, you will still get a bonus from it. So yeah, you can switch to HE if you really feel like it, but in my opinion, not particularly necessary. Another thing that I actually forgot to mention, but it's kind of whatever. The NTR on the Anhalt, it's not that great. The long range, it's pretty weak since you only have 6 twin 105mm guns. And other than that, the medium range, kind of whatever. You have a solid close range, but you know, the usual problem with the close range is that it doesn't deal that much damage in action. You just don't get enough time inside the interior. Anyway, that's all for me, boys, and goodbye, Kaga. Hehehe.